Hi and good evening, guys. We have with us Maxim Salnikov. He is the current Azure Tech Developer Technical Lead at Microsoft, as well as now let me come to his skills. He is a cloud skills strategist. He's a web platform developer. He believes in JavaScript very much. Okay, he has also worked on many progressive web apps. He's a Google developer expert in web technologies. Now coming to some of his open source contributions, you can very well search for him on GitHub. You can find his open source contribution; those are enormous. Okay, he is the founder and technical manager of NG Vikings and Mobile Era conference. So, Maxim, thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for coming to DSC.
Hello, folks. Hello, dear students, dear developers or future developers. My great pleasure to present for your awesome community. And thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. I'm really keen on sharing my knowledge, my experience with you tonight.
Great. The pleasure is all ours, Maxim. So, first, for all the viewers out there, let me just tell you what DSC is all about. So, DSC VIT Pune. So, DSC stands for Developer Student Club, which comes under the Google Developers category. We are mentored by the Google Developers community, which in turn focuses on open source technologies and empowering students by teaching them the open source technologies, and in turn the end goal is same for all, to make the world a better place. So we here at DSC VIT Pune have organized this session EMBARK, wherein we invite great technical speakers like you who want to share knowledge, who want to share their experience with the young generation of minds, in turn to help them to have a very good career. So today, as I have given you the introduction of Maxim, so now Maxim, I'll be having three questions for you in the beginning. So Maxim, my first question for you is: there has always been this debate and this confusion among students of native versus debate of native versus cross-platform. So what are your views on the same? What would you prefer? What should students prefer initially for doing any project, let's say?
Mm. Yeah, this is really good question, and actually, we can discuss 1 hour, 2 hours, one day on chatting about native versus cross-platform. Uh, this is really depends on particular project, on your skills, on overall team skills, and of course on business requirements. But I call myself advocate of progressive web apps. This is why my personal choice, if there are no like other serious factors, I go for web. I bet on web, and I believe in power of web. And the idea of progressive web apps is making web platforms stronger than ever. And for many businesses, that also way more interesting option to build one application using web technologies, which is similarly good for web platform, for Android, for iOS, for desktops. We have more and more APIs coming to make web stronger. We have more and better support from the browser side of these APIs. I'm not saying that you can safely use all the latest and greatest APIs without caring so much if they support it or not. But still, in the web, we have this interesting concept called progressive enhancement, and we have mechanism called feature detection, where you can say think about basic functionality of your application like the core one, but you can improve it by adding this or that API if that's supported by particular platform, browser, version of the browser settings. Saying that, I do not advocate against native applications completely. There are still plenty of use cases where you have to create 100% native application, for example, for iOS platform, where you really need all the power of hardware, of all the performance, where the web platform is not good enough. There are still some use cases, but I say that they are becoming more and more niche scenarios. For more and more use cases, you can just fully rely on power of web. Plus, PWA is not the only way to create cross-platform applications. We have React Native, we have Native Script. For desktops, we have Electron, we have Xamarin, and I think more and more frameworks with this cross-platform nature will come. But again, do not expect a silver bullet that will come and solve all your issues. I completely forgot to mention a really cool project called Flutter. This is where I also encourage you to investigate this platform. Really interesting approach for cross-platform. So, to sum up, don't be a warrior of one army only, native or cross-platform. Be flexible. If you decide approach from business perspective, I'd say that check the competence of your team. If these folks are web developers, let them build web technologies. Use web technologies to build all experience for you. Maybe this could be the answer.
That was really great, Maxim. So, just for your information, I am the Flutter project manager here at DSC VIT Pune, and we have a dedicated team of Flutter developers. We also have a team for web and Android, but this year, from this year, the add-on is the Flutter team that we have. We are developing now projects also in Flutter because we know the power of Flutter. We know the power of cross-platform apps that Flutter gives us currently. So that's it. So coming to the second question now. We students have this sort of confusion. Like personally, even I had this confusion. Like most of us are very good technically. Suppose let's say take my example. I'm very good at Flutter. So to have so coming from the future point of view, what should I do? Should I focus more on developing apps in Flutter, deploying it on the Play Store, getting packages done in Flutter, or should I focus more on the competitive coding side, which in turn is responsible, or which in turn helps me to get in a job, to get a job in an MNC just like Microsoft? So, what are your views on the same? Should a student focus more on development, or should he get his basics straight at first?
Mm. That's really great question, and again, there is no simple answer, and it really depends on your intentions, on how you exactly want to build your IT career. Let's start my answer from this. So we have Flutter now, right? And it came maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Right.
Before that, we had something different. Maybe in 1 or 2 years, we'll have not Flutter, but Super Flutter, which is completely different, right? So
Right.
what will you do with all your Flutter expertise, even if you are super deep there? Most likely, if you didn't invest your time and your efforts into learning the foundations, most likely you will not be so brilliant specialist anymore on the job market, right?
Right.
This is why it's very important to continue your education in these fundamental parts: algorithms, data structures. This will never go out of fashion, right? These are
Right.
fundamentals, and you can apply it to any language, any framework. It doesn't mean, that you will use the most optimal sorting algorithm every day on your job. No, but the way of thinking, how you came up to implementing and maybe learning this algorithm will change the way you think, and this will help you with solving very practical, very business-oriented tasks. So my advice: invest in foundation. It doesn't mean that you have to be only this, let's say, scientific programmer, or like programmer who is completely detached from what's happening in real life, in real projects. So keep your eye both on current developer trends and continue your fundamental education. This is my advice.
Great. Thanks a lot for that. Coming to the third question. Maxim, you are the co-founder and technical lead of a very great initiative. I've personally looked at it. When I first looked at it, I was sort of surprised. Combining Vikings with development. I'm like, oh my God, how can someone do this? Okay. Can you tell us about this initiative of yours?
Yeah, sure, with great pleasure. So you mean the conference called ANG Vikings, or Angular Vikings. The story is very simple. I live in Norway, and this is Nordic country with very strong culture of Vikings from the past, right? And how we came up to the idea of organizing a conference on Angular, not just for Norway, but for multiple countries in Nordics. So it's Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. First, I ran local Angular meetup for some years here in Oslo, where I live. Once at the conference dedicated to Angular, it was in Spain, it was a conference called Angular Camp, I met my soulmate colleague in organizing of Angular meetup, but in Denmark. And we had a very interesting discussion, like, hey, Maxim, she told me, why not to have the conference about Angular in our countries? And I told, Sherry, this is really good idea, but maybe our countries are not that large in terms of number of Angular developers residing there. So why not to share one conference for all Nordic countries? And next year that happened. We found our soulmates who drive Angular meetups in Sweden and Finland, and we decided from the very beginning, we are cross-Nordic experience. We are Vikings. Vikings love to travel, so we jump into our Viking boat and we sail to some countries. And first ever NG Vikings happened in Denmark. Then we went to Finland. Then our plan was to go to Sweden, but for some logistic reasons we had to go back to Denmark. And NG Vikings this year we planned to run it in Norway, but because of COVID we ran it remotely, and we gathered more than 3.5 thousand attendees online. Just amazing community. And by the way, many attendees were from India. We were really amazed by passion you have in your country to building Angular applications. So NG Vikings, this is 100% community-driven initiative, 100% profit-free. It's driven by not-for-profit organization, and our goal is not to bring top speakers from Angular universe to the countries. Of course, every year we have really, let's say, very well-known Angular speakers. We always have someone from Angular core team. We have folks who create video courses, write articles. You all know. Yes, we all have it. But our main intention is to sparkle, to ignite local developer community. This is why we always dedicate some slots, some speaking slots to newcomers, to new beginners who just started their speaker journey. And this way we come to a particular country and we nurture Angular community there. This is our nature, this is our DNA of NG Vikings. And every year we have speaker who deliver their first or almost first technical session at international conference, and this speaker becomes very well-known international technical speaker. So we do not only invite stars, we sparkle stars.
That is so great. That is so great. Now you are an inspiration for us for DSC VIT Pune personally. Coming organizing something like this is even what we'll be looking forward in the coming years. And personally, getting your soulmate by Angular or through Angular, and then arranging something like that. This is something which the technical guys are going to love a lot. Now you have given us an inspiration basically through this story.
Thanks. By
Thanks
the
a
way,
lot.
you have a really great conference dedicated to Angular in India. So it's super simple name, NG India. So I had a pleasure to be a speaker there. So I visited India 2 years ago. Got really great pleasure to present for developers there. So
Nice.
if you have fans, have a look at NG India. I don't know if they're going to have remote conference or on-site. Who knows these days? But this is something you might want to follow.
For sure, we'll for sure work this out. So, so that's it from my side, Maxim. Just before your session starts, guys, do make sure that you like, share, and subscribe this video. Do share this with your friends who love Angular, who love web technologies. This is heaven for them. They're going to really get benefited through this session. Plus, all the cloud enthusiasts as well. There is something great lined up for you. Over to you, Maxim.
Thanks. Let me share my screen. Hope this will work fine. Yes, I will share entire screen. Yep, so I hope you see my screen now. If something goes wrong, just please tell me by voice, because I'm not seeing you now. I don't see comments.
For sure, for sure.
So this will be 100% technical demo. I don't have any slide for this session, and I want to do everything live. So anything can happen, you know. But let's hope for the best that the demo will go smoothly. This is I wanted to introduce the name of the session. What Azure Cloud can do for you as for web front-end developer, as for future web front-end developer, right? If you are just students, if you just started to learn web technologies, you might wonder. So I'm a web front-ender, right? I write JavaScript, I write HTML, CSS. Why do I have to care about the cloud? There are different teams, different departments who is taking care of deployments and all that stuff. You are right, but in real life it's more complex, right? And you can be hired to some company where you have way more responsibilities than just writing the application. Plus, it's always great for you to have better control over what happens next, what happens after you created your application. So why not to learn about how to build all the flow, what happens after you pushed your code to some source code repo, and before the visitor of your website, of your application, will see something. There are many steps, and some of them might be quite complex in all this DevOps and hosting and building and deployment, but Azure Cloud from Microsoft has a relatively new service. It was introduced this summer, which streamlines pretty much all the flow, and you as web frontender can dedicate yourself mainly or exclusively to writing the code, and Azure Cloud will do the rest for you. You write the code, you push it to the repo, in a few minutes you see result on the website, on your host name. Furthermore, it's distributed over the global servers network of Azure. You then don't have to care about resilience, scalability, and availability. So it's on multiple servers in multiple regions, multiple continents, right after you pushed your code to the repo. Saying that, let's do some demo, and let's try to take one particular repo and push it to the cloud. As simple as that. For today, we are going to use this link called aka.ms/SWA demo. What is SWA? This is an acronym for Static Web Apps. This is the name of this service of Azure. If we open this website, these are the steps for us for today. We might want to skip some of them for sake of the time, but let me start from super brief re-intro of myself, mainly in terms of how to contact me. I have Twitter called WebMaxRU. My direct messages are open for you folks. Feel free to reach out to me for any advice on web platform, on Azure, on your career. Also, this is the link where you can find all about sessions I deliver, and it's my pleasure to continue my speaker journey for your events. But maybe this is a self-containing URL. If you remember this one, or maybe dear event hosts will push it to the comments, you will have pretty much everything, both information about Azure Static Web Apps and about me. Let's start. So we have a GitHub repository. And this is application I wrote in Angular. Well, it's hard to call this an application. Basically, this is just a couple of pages, and it's not that far from the newly scaffolded Angular application, the one you receive when you type ng new. But still, it will work good for demo purposes. And you might wonder how this application is looking like. Well, no secret. It's exactly this app. So you see one app, one page, and the second page with /me URL, as simple as that. So how do we start pushing this to the cloud? First thing first, we start from the local deployment, right? In most cases, we start developing this app on our local machine. And here I have it. I open my Visual Studio Code, and this is SWA Angular application. And if you run Angular command called ng build, we ask Angular CLI to build this application for you. What happens? Angular CLI creates dist folder, dist /SWA Angular to be precise, where it copies everything what was built. Your index.html, your main JavaScript bundle, your main CSS bundle, everything you asked Angular to keep as a part of files you want to deploy. So basically, contents of this folder are ready to be deployed on the server. So what do we want to achieve? We want to run the same process, of building the application from source code, but straight in the cloud. So we want to avoid the flow when we build everything on our local machine and we somehow deploy to the cloud contents of this folder. No, it's not our way. We want to automate everything. We want to only care about code, about source code, and after we pushed some changes, we want it to be built, deployed, and hosted in the cloud immediately. Let's do this.
Sorry to interrupt you, Maxim. Can you please zoom a little bit?
Oh yes, sure. Yes, I can make it. We will not put too much attention to the code today, so maybe it's not that important. I will emphasize very important parts of what we have. So important part here is package JSON file, right? It explains our environment, local environment and cloud environment in the future, which dependencies do we have and how to build the application. And the build command is this one, build, and here we have the build from Angular, from Angular CLI. If you create a React application, you will have some other command here in build script. If you have Vue application. You will have something related to Vue. Azure Static Web Apps service supports everything. So it's completely framework agnostic. And the fact that we use Angular now, this is just my personal selection of the framework for the simplicity, because I'm more comfortable with Angular currently. Okay. I have Azure portal opened here on this tab. Let me go to this screen. If you have Azure subscription and if you have any experience with doing some things in Azure portal, most likely you're familiar with dashboard like this. If not, I encourage you to go to azure.microsoft.com/free in general availability yet. I mean, US developer has all the ways to test it, but this will not charge your card, so you will not spend any single penny. Okay, let's how to start. You just type Azure Static Web App. Here, and you add the new one. This will take only a few moments. How to configure this? First, we always use some subscription. In case of free trial, you will have your own free trial subscription. This is the way you attach Azure Cloud to some billing procedures. Then you have resource group. This is the way for you to group your projects within Azure to attach them to one particular project. So for our demo scenario, I have a group called SWA demo. Then we have a name. Let's call this SWA test. Region is not that important currently. Let's pick this one. You see, this is free to use. What's next? Next, we have to sign in with GitHub. By the way, let me maybe change the browser, because on this browser I'm not logged in on GitHub, and I have some issues with need to change the password. So let's hope that this will save us some extra minutes on me not authenticating to the GitHub. So I re-authenticate myself to Azure portal, and I will just perform the same operations. I create static web app. I create a new one, and doing absolutely the same as SWA test. Any region will work for us, and yeah, I have some credits left. Now I pick sign in with GitHub. I'm already authenticated. Most likely in your case, you will see authentication window to the GitHub, to the place where we want to keep the source code of the application. So in my case, I just click continue. That's it. And then I pick organization on GitHub. I have multiple. Then I pick particular repo. It's easy to find the one. And the branch. Let's pick the branch called main. Here, plus here we have to provide some extra knowledge about our application to Azure Static Web Apps, so it knows how to build it. If we go for completely custom option, we have to provide these three parameters. But we have very handy presets. Folks from Azure engineering team created presets for well-known frameworks. Of course, this is not full list of the frameworks, right? Not frameworks, neither site generators. So this is just as a hint for us. In case of Angular, application location, app location. In most cases, this will be root directory of your repo. It's exactly my case. API location. This is where your APIs stored. You can attach your API to static web app, but today we skip this section from our presentation. App artifact. Be careful here, because in case of Angular, if you go for default settings of Angular, this will be not just dist, but Angular PWA. Sorry, not Angular. In my case, this will be SWA Angular. So it's dist plus name of your project. And of course, this part will be custom for your project. This is just the default folder where Angular CLI outputs results of build flow. That's pretty much it. We click review plus create. Everything looks good here. We click create. Only a few moments needed, and maybe let me make the font a bit larger. Done. Go to resource. So what do we have here? On the left-hand side, you see all the regular stuff about Azure resources, like subscription ID, resource group. It's not that interesting for us. What's interesting is here. First, we got a test URL for us. This URL consists of 2 random words plus short hash string plus Azure Static Apps.net. This is the place where Azure will host your application. Of course, most likely you don't want to share this URL publicly, right? This is something for debugging. You can connect your custom domain later. You can connect your mysuperwebsite.com hostname afterwards, but having immediate testing domain is good. And by the way, yes, these 2 words are really random, and this name is a bit hilarious. Agreeable smoke, whatever that means. If we open this, what do we see? We see a message saying your Azure Static Web App is live and waiting for your content. Why do we see this one? So I hear some extra noise on the background. Maybe you could, yes, thanks. So what's happening? Why don't we see the application here? Why don't we see this part? Because it will take some moments to build it, and we can check the status here. First, this file was auto-created for us in our GitHub repo. If we open this file, what is this all about? We definitely don't want to go into the details of all this configuration. After all, Azure Static Web Apps service is here to help us, right? Not to force us to learn the syntax of GitHub Actions workflow from scratch. No, in the big picture, you can postpone learning of what's going on here until you really need it. This file was auto-created in your repo, and you see that some settings we provided during app configuration are here: app location, API location, and app artifact location. So if you ever need to change something, you know where to go. But what is this file all about? This is a YAML file which explains GitHub or GitHub Actions, to be precise, how to build your application and when to build your application, which are the triggers when to start build process, and what to do exactly on build flow. If we open Actions tab, we will see some progress is going on. Yeah, you see I have multiple branches, and every branch is trying to build, and many of them are failing. This is from my previous experiment, so don't pay too much attention to this failed ones. It's not about our today's use case. I believe this is the one we want to look. And what's going on now? It's already happened. GitHub Actions, it created environment for building the application. Literally, it created Linux environment. It installed Angular CLI. It installed all the dependencies, and it built the app. And then basically it propagated everything to the host location, to this domain. And by the way, maybe I clicked the wrong one. I picked the wrong one. It, completed and green and ready to go is here. If you check the history, you will see how it was all installed. You create environment, not you, but GitHub Actions create environment and installs all the dependencies. You see it runs npm install for you. Then it run build command you specified in package JSON. Now, if we go here and hit refresh, we have to see our application ready to go. Let me zoom this in. So yeah, we achieved absolutely the same result as we had on our demo URL. We achieved this literally on the fly, while we were speaking. So what happened? We created Angular application. We made sure that it's maybe we want to switch this staging URL to production URL. What do? So normally we commit change and let's create a separate branch for this. I'm fine with this name. We propose changes and basically we create pull request. This is a normal flow of the development, right? Create pull request. We are done, literally. After you just created pull request, Azure Static Web Apps take the branch called main. Let me zoom that in. And after the build completed, so it's building now, you will see another environment completely created from scratch with another URL for you. And you can run, for example, end-to-end test or maybe check visually how that looks. And what's next? Next, you have two options. If you are happy with what you see on this staging environment, on the staging host name, you just merge this pull request you have. You just click merge, and Azure Static Web Apps swaps environment. So staging becomes production, and that's pretty much it. If for some reason you say, no, this super test branch is not looking good and I need some extra changes, you just close this pull request on GitHub. What happens then? Azure SWA just kills this staging environment, and you just forget about this test URL. Very convenient, very handy, and you can deploy. You can test everything visually, or you can set up end-to-end testing automatically without any affection of your production URL. So you always keep your production URL in a good shape without need to try something new there, which you didn't try on the previous steps. Well, maybe last point we pick for today's review, one important thing related to single page applications. So Angular in its pure form and React in its pure form are classical SPAs, single page applications. What does it mean? That means that you literally have only one HTML page. This is in most cases index HTML in your root folder. And if someone types not just mysuperwebsite.com, but mysuperwebsite.com / for example, company or / catalog, there is no such a folder. There is no folder catalog on your server, right? And there is no folder for all passes in your URL. It's all virtual, and of course, your server has to understand what to do. It shouldn't show 404 page not found, because what it has to do, it has to redirect everything to index.html in the root folder, and then your framework will take control over routing, what to do. Angular knows what to do after, right? After it just received this redirection, and React knows what to do. this is different. For example, for websites you build using static site generators like Gatsby for React or Scala for Angular or other SSGs like Hugo or Eleventy. They literally create all this folder structure, all this index HTML in corresponding folders. So there is no such an issue like in single page apps. But anyway, how to explain to Azure Static Web Apps that this is still a classical SPA and you have to redirect everything to the route. So how to make sure that URL like this /me will work, will not show 404, even if there is no such a folder. We have special tooling for this. By the way, let me check what do we have in our actions. Yeah, again, don't pay any attention to these failed ones. It's from my previous experiments, but we see that environment is here, so we can refresh to make sure that staging environment is here, and we can browse this. Yeah, you see that we have a new test URL created for us. You see it's still same agreeable smokes hash string, but also we have this random number here, and the title is different, exactly what we changed. And then we have to decide what to do. If we unhappy with this change, we just go to pull requests, go to this one, and hit close pull request. That's it. In a few moments, this staging environment will be killed by an Azure SWA, and like we start from scratch. Let's go back to the routing. How to set up the proper routing for SPAs. We have, let's go here, a special file that we have to host, that we have to keep in our application called routes.json. This is, let's say, agreement between us and Azure SWA that we keep this file somewhere in the application, and based on configuration in this file, Azure SWA understands what to do. The main setting you have to have in this JSON for any single page application, regardless Angular or React or whatever, is this setting. It's very important one. Otherwise, all the URLs like this /me will just show 404 error for you. So what do we literally say here? Hey, Azure Static Web Apps service, please, all the URLs starting with / and following this pattern, that means pretty much everything. Instead of trying to serve these URLs directly, please redirect everything to index.html file. And this is not an error if we have something going after /, show the status code to hundreds. Yes, Azure SWA will follow your ask, and this way we'll have your routes working for you. So please be mindful about this. Don't forget to have this file routes.json. Azure Static Web Apps server is smart enough to recognize that this is Angular application, and there are some places where you might want to host this file to not manually copy it every time to the route folder, to the root folder, sorry. So if you put it into source assets, normal place where you keep static assets for your Angular application, this will be copied automatically. So you don't have to do anything, and you can find the desired locations of your routes.json file in corresponding section of the documentation. So you see, let me zoom in. Again, to avoid all manual steps, these are recommended places for you to keep routes.json in. Then Azure SWA will do all the stuff for you. Okay, so let's wrap up. What we went through. We went through super fast setup of your front-end web application in the cloud. Literally, you point to your repo on GitHub. After a few minutes, you see exact result of build and deploy and host. Number one. Then we went through production versus staging. This convenient way for us to switch these environments to test how that works in advance. Next, we went through routes JSON, very important part of your application if this is a single page app. Plus, using this the same routes JSON, you can protect some URLs, for example, to require some authentication. You can set up any redirects you wish using the same syntax, but it's a bit out of scope for our today's session. All these great helpers we have in Azure Static Web Apps for authentication, because to authenticate users, there are many different frameworks, libraries, helpers. Still, it's not something trivial in many cases to implement. Azure SWA helps us here also. There are handy ways to authenticate your users in well-known identity providers like GitHub, Twitter, of course, Azure Active Directory, and Facebook. So I encourage you to learn in the documentation how to do this. And also, out of our today's scope is to how to create and attach API to your web front-end application, because in many cases, it's not enough to have the application completely static, right? Still, you might want to trigger some APIs to download some data to display it on your page, or to do some different tasks. And currently you can write APIs for your static web apps in JavaScript and TypeScript, in C# and Python. So these APIs tools are available for you. I think that's pretty much it from what I wanted to present. So once again, you as a front-end web developer has really convenient tools from Microsoft, from Azure Cloud, to have your application up and running in the cloud. I encourage you to go and test everything. You will enjoy this journey, I promise. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, I'm super happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Maxim. That was a really good demo that you presented through us. The guys really loved it, and we had a very good hands-on session. Now, this is something which you don't actually get to see. So thank you very much for that. So now we'll be heading towards the question answer round. So guys, please make sure that you comment your questions in the chat box. This is once in a lifetime opportunity where you get to interact with people who have very good sound technical knowledge. They are working in this domain, so you actually get your doubts cleared. So please make sure that you keep asking questions. Please make sure that you use this opportunity to fullest. And also, one important update: there is an form that has been put out in the chat box. Please make sure that you fill this form before 1 hour of this, before the session ends. After the session ends in 1 hour, so as to get the certificates. Now let us start with the questions then.
Yeah.
So the first question that we have over here is from Aniket Ghorpade. So what are your thoughts about React Native versus Flutter?
Really good question. On the one hand, React Native is a way more mature technology with a huge community around this, with lots of helping libraries, packages, projects, samples. So maybe your start will be faster with React Native. On the other hand, I see more, let's say, opportunities with Flutter. So architecture-wise, it has more possibilities in its foundation. And for example, if you take the latest experiments with Flutter on web, it's amazing how you use this technology both for creating native almost native mobile applications plus the same experience for the web. I'm not saying that Flutter for web is something that is completely production ready. There are still lots of challenges to solve, but potential wise, I see Flutter in a like long run term a winner in that sense. Still, React Native might become a bit more niche technology, despite it also like cross platform. But maybe as a front end developer, you have to invest a bit more time to start with Flutter compared to React Native. So after all, in Flutter, you do not use JavaScript. You have to learn Dart language before. Right. It's an interesting journey, but get ready to invest some time to this.
Like just like you mentioned, the Flutter web or Flutter desktop, it's still in the beta version. So still there is it will take for about 1 to 2 years for it to get productionized. But I personally think that Flutter um, is going to get good in a long run as compared to React Native, as you rightly said. So the next question that we have is from Anjali Devri. So Anjali says, for a person who is new to web development, which framework would you suggest to study?
You know what? I really don't want to recommend one particular framework because if we look at, let's say, top 3 frameworks, the major ones, Angular, React, Vue, they all are pretty newcomer friendly. You'll find lots of tutorials on web how to get started with every single one of them. And no doubts, you will find your job if you if you are good with any of these frameworks. Let me advise like this. Look at folks around you, at developers you have around you. Ask what they use and what they can help you with in terms of onboarding you, and just go for this option. Maybe this could be an advice. Just find like mini community of you and ask them, hey folks, which framework are you working with, and can you be my mentors in my journey to be there? But again, please do not ignore the fundamentals. Starting your programmer journey from a particular framework is not the optimal choice. Move in both directions. Very practical and business-oriented one, how to start with framework, but framework is not a language, right? It's not a fundamentals, and don't watch at these modern trends too much, because these are just trends. This is just a fashion, and every week there's a new framework appearing, and one of these frameworks will become a new one in this big 3 with some years. So it's inevitable process. There is a rotation.
Right. That was a very good answer. The next question that we have is from Sanket Shinde. So we have router modules in React and Angular. So could you tell the importance of routes.json in Azure?
Yeah, this is a really good and very practical questions. Your routing in your framework is remaining absolutely the same, so you don't touch it. You don't need to introduce any changes there. Routes.json of Azure Static Web Apps work on level under your framework. So it works on web server level. So it works on the level what's happening before router of your framework takes control. So it's there to help web server recognize what's going on and how to behave next. So let's say routes.json receives the actual route even before your framework was loaded. So the intention of this to make sure that single page application is working successfully. Plus, maybe it really depends on your business logic. You can use routes JSON for any redirect you might want to have. But again, this is on the underlying level of all the storage. So it starts before any framework.
Right. That was great. Great. The next, can we have the next question? Yes. Next question is from Raksha. So, what's the scope of serverless application in your near future?
Oh, I'm afraid I'm not qualified to tell the future roadmap of where serverless goes to, or where Azure serverless goes to be in particular. Let me say like this: I see big trend in converting and in creating the new projects of applications and APIs in particular as a serverless, as functions. And regardless, Azure or any cloud provider, I see that more and more developers think about these categories. So they really don't. So when platform as services appeared, when you could stop thinking about I don't know, running and upgrading your operating system, when you could just spin up your Node.js server and start writing code for you. This was one step. Now developers want to do next step. They want to take care about Node.js server itself. They just want to write the code, and they don't want to take care where this code is running, how to make sure that the application server where this code is running is scalable and resilient. This is where the serverless are going. You literally write the code, you care only about this. And so I see trend going to serverless. Where the serverless goes, I don't know. It's hard to imagine.
Right. Right. We are all hoping for a great future. Let's see where this goes out.
Yeah.
Can we have the next question, please? Yes. So the next question is from Yash Lahoti. How does Azure build the web application? Does it have its own Angular CLI?
This is a very, very good question. So technically, this is even not Azure which is building the application. This is GitHub, or GitHub Actions part of GitHub, to be precise. But all this complexity is under the hood. We as developers don't even want to know about this. I'm just really want to dive a bit deeper. Does it have its own Angular CLI? Yes and no. It has it when it needs this. So just imagine, on every single code change you pushed into the GitHub repo, Azure, or as I mentioned, GitHub Actions, starts everything from scratch, literally. It creates completely new environment, fresh Linux, fresh Node.js, fresh Angular CLI, fresh dependencies, and starts the building. So yes, it installs Angular CLI when needed, and of course, after the successful build or unsuccessful build, this environment just disappears. How does it understand what to install? Well, package JSON is containing pretty much everything, and exactly there you specify the version of Angular CLI and all the versions of your dependencies. So just imagine that I sent you the URL of my repo on GitHub, and on your local machine you got this URL. You type git clone this URL, you got source code, then you type npm install, you got all the dependencies, then you type ng build, you build Angular application. This is exactly what's happening in GitHub actions for you automatically every single time you push the code. Even not even starting from there, but starting from creating environment of machine at all. This is why, of course, it takes, let's say, some seconds or maybe some minutes to have this application built. It again, it recreates environment from scratch every single time.
Great. I hope Yash, this answers your.
Artificial intelligence and machine learning dedicated services to this. Everything about the data lakes, data factories, everything is existing on Azure. So it's hard to say which workloads is better to run there. Yeah, I think the trend is moving to the cloud. Pretty much all workloads from what's ever possible to move to the cloud. Why? To simplify your life as a developer, and second, to spend some dollars for businesses. In many cases, if you created cloud application in a proper way, this is way more profitable and way more money saving for you to run your workload there. So I advocate for cloud.
Right. I hope Tanay, your question is well answered. So this was all from our side. We have covered almost all the questions. We couldn't take many of them due to the time limit. So can we have one last question? I see. Okay. So this is the last question for today's session. So Mayuresh asked, can you give a brief insight on IoT aspect of Azure? So as in how IoT can be used over there.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some services dedicated exclusively to all projects around IoT on Azure. I'm not expert in that field, but what I can guarantee you that you will have all convenient, secure, and scalable tools to connect your IoT device to the cloud. You as a developer covered by corresponding SDKs you can deploy on your IoT device, and then Azure will take care of the rest. How to safely, securely, and in scalable way to receive data from your IoT device to the cloud, how to transfer this data back. If also you might want to run some workloads relevant to Azure straight on your device on the edge. Also some SDKs are available. And of course, you will have all the tools and portals to manage your IoT devices straight from Azure portal. And there are different opportunities are available, starting from quite high level ones when you don't dive deep into the coding of what's happening on IoT device. If that supports this a bit high level protocol, then you just connect your devices to the cloud without spending too much time on software on IoT device. But of course, if you wish to go deeper, you can just create completely custom code on your device to make sure that you have the full flow covered, everything you can ever imagine from IoT scenario. You have lots of services.
Right. I hope Mayuresh, your question is very well answered. So thanks a lot, Maxim, for taking time out from your busy schedule and helping and to help us to guide the students of VIT and students of DSC community all over India. Thank you very much, Maxim, for accepting our invitation, coming live on to come live on YouTube with us, and to and to actually present a demo of actually getting one project from GitHub live on cloud on Microsoft Azure. That is really great. All our guys have very well enjoyed this session. We were looking forward to it. It was very informative. You cleared all our doubts. With all the gratitude that we have, we are very thankful to you for accepting our invitation, for being here.
Thank you very much. It was great pleasure. And dear students, good luck with your education. I really want to see you as like new wave of developers. So it's you folks who will create the next big framework. It's you who will create next big service in the cloud.
For sure, Maxim. Thank you very much, Maxim. Um, and to all the guys out there who are watching it live and who will watch it afterwards, make sure you connect with Maxim. You ask him more questions. You have a look at his open source contribution. You take motivation from him. He is a motivation for all of us. Thank you very much, Maxim. And guys, please do like, share, and subscribe this video. Subscribe this channel. Do share this video. Make sure it reaches most people, most of the Angular developers. Thank you very much, and do make sure that you fill the Google form to get the certificates.